Let's jump into the Oasis. I think I tore my sack. Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. Ready, player one, are you ready? So, interesting thing for me is a novel I actually read is being turned, or has been turned into a movie. Usually the novels I read don't get turned into movies. The graphic novels I read kind of do. But even on the scale of comic books, they're really just taking characters, some light storylines, but really making something new with it, with the idea of the character. They're not following a direct narrative. With a novel, you kind of have to do that. So this is a rarity for me, where a novel I read gets turned into a movie. So I guess right off the bat, just so you know, this review is coming from somebody who read the book and really loved the book. So, Ready Player One, let's get into it. So Ready Player One is brought to us by a unknown up-and-coming director. You might have heard of him, but Steven Spielberg, something like that. It's got to be Spielberg, right? Anyways, he directed some sort of dinosaur movie. Oh, whatever, doesn't matter. So the plot of Ready Player One is there's the world's biggest video game, well-liked or whatever, is a VR system called the Oasis. And its creator, James Halliday, died. And when he died, he put in 3 keys that would lead to an Easter egg that would grant you basically control of the Oasis and his company. So in a sense, it's Willy Wonka meets the Matrix. And our main character is, really into this guy Halliday, as well as 80s nostalgia and pop culture, the same as Halliday, which he tries to use to help find the keys in this game to gain access to the company. And against him is this evil corporation known as IOI, who wants to take over the Oasis for their own evil corporate reasons. And that is the plot of Ready Player One. So let's talk about the characters. So of course our main character, Parzival, is played by Ty Sheridan, who is Cyclops in everyone's favorite X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse. It's not anyone's favorite, but anyways. He does a pretty good job. A lot of people have critiqued that Parzival in the novel is bit more overweight, a bit more of your average nerd, where he's a fair more fit. But I think he pulls off more of like just the unathletic kind of nerd, not necessarily out of shape, but I think he pulls off being a nerd pretty well. He does come off a little overconfident sometimes, which can get annoying. But for the most part, I enjoyed his characterization and what he did. He did a pretty good job. And we have Artemis, played by Olivia Cook. And I really enjoyed this character a lot. I like what they did with it. They added some differences from the book, but she looked like what I thought she would from the book, both the character and her avatar. And she was a fun character. I like what she did. She had some good witty lines. She has some really good deliveries. I really like that character. She did a really good job. And of course we have the head of the evil corporation, Sorento, played by Ben Mendelsohn. I don't know, maybe it's kind of like the book or not. I don't remember a lot of Sorrento's character. But in this, he's a little bit over the top, too much of the cackling evil villain on the top of the hill. A little bit too much of that. I don't know. Bendo tried his best, I think, but I just don't really think I like this character. I didn't really gravitate towards him. He didn't feel like much of a threat. Yeah, nah. Of course, I got to mention T.J. Miller and Simon Pegg playing IROC and Ogden Morrow, respectively. I have to mention them because they're huge names, but yeah, they're barely in this movie, which I'm going to get into later. But yeah, they are barely in this, so they are mentioned. So what did Ready Player One do well? So I'm going to try really hard to not get up my own ass and do the whole the book is better kind of thing. But the movie did do some things really good. And I don't want to just compare everything to the book as well. Let's take it as the movie that it is. First thing that I really liked is I liked the look of the Oasis. It's kind of realistic but cartoony, but kind of on the edge of cartoony where it's realistic. It's really feels like a place you could get lost in. Like your reality would be lost in this place. It's still obviously a video game, but it feels like it could be real. I think they, balanced that really good. It wasn't overbearingly cartoonish, but it wasn't like they didn't just be like, oh, we are in video game now. They didn't do the Tron thing where it's just dudes with, lights on them. Like it was still, good stuff. And it was a decent effect, and I think it worked really well. The other thing I think it balanced really well was the pop culture references. A lot of the complaints that I hear about the book is that it's just a list of pop culture references, and, it's all, oh, remember this, remember that. But it kind of fits in the world of the book that, this guy is so obsessed with pop culture. It's just that would be the way he would talk and relate to people is, remember this from a movie kind of thing. And it just works in that world. Especially, in an Oasis where you can kind of create and make anything you want. People would totally, make a Millennium Falcon, or I would be driving the Death Proof car and things like that. Because, we see that with avatars on websites and, people's backgrounds on their MySpace page back in the day. Like, you give people creative freedom, they're still going to use, pop culture to define their own identity. It's just how we are, especially as an American. But I think they balanced it really well in the movie. It wasn't too overgrading and it wasn't done too much. They get the mentions and there's, bits and pieces all over it, but it doesn't become overbearing. If anything, I think they did too little because, like, in the battle in the end, which you can kind of see in the trailer, you have the Iron Giant, but, somebody would make, Voltron. Someone would do, like, Godzilla or whatever. I think there'd be even more pop culture, but I think, due to legal standards or whatever, they dialed it back. But I think they balanced it really well, and it didn't become too overbearing. And honestly, that's pretty much all the positive I have for it. So, no movie is perfect. Where does Ready Player One fall short? So let me break this up into two parts. As a movie in and of itself, and as an adaptation. So, as a movie in and of itself, separate it from the book, just the movie that was presented to us. First, it was an incredible waste of talent. As I mentioned before, Simon Pegg and T.J. Miller are barely in it. Simon Pegg's character could have been replaced with literally anyone. I think I had more lines in this movie than Simon Pegg had. So why did they bring in this amazing actor of Simon Pegg to do nothing? Like, he barely shows up at all. And Ogden Morrow in the book is a big deal. And he is barely in this movie. And so you could have just slotted literally anyone else into this and it wouldn't have mattered. T.J. Miller doesn't feel like he has the free reign that he does on, Deadpool or Silicon Valley to where he can riff and he's really funny that way. This felt like he was really restrained and it didn't work. It was a really bad role for him. His jokes fell really flat and again he was barely in it. So it's just really a waste of talent. And yes, the other part I didn't like in and of itself is the jokes. My theater wasn't totally full, but there's a fair amount of people in it, and dead silence when a lot of the jokes hit. It was they were painfully not funny. They were just really, really bad, terrible jokes in this movie. Just fell really flat. I don't know what the problem was, but it was very flat, very bad. And I would be curious to see what someone who has not read the book thinks of this, because I found it incredibly confusing as someone who read the book. And I have some of the background that I feel like you would need to put some of this into perspective. And they don't give a lot of that. So would somebody seeing this fresh without reading the book be just incredibly confused? I don't know. The only people I've known that's seen it have also read the book. So I don't know. If you have seen it and you haven't read the book, let me know what you thought in the comments below. But I feel like it'd be incredibly confusing. Now, how does it work as an adaptation? Well, if you're looking for the movie version of the book, look somewhere else, because this has little to nothing to do with the book. I'm not going to go into details. I'll do that in spoilers, but it's completely dismissed from the book. And some adaptations can actually get away with that and do a really good job. One specific, one would be Wanted. It has little, if anything, to do with the comic, except for a few of the themes and stuff like that, but really it's a completely different story. What they replaced it with was very entertaining, so it was kind of like, oh, okay. It wasn't the movie I wanted, but yeah, this is still pretty good. This doesn't really do that. It doesn't really replace it with anything I give a shit about. So, yeah, it's completely separate from the book. And because of that, they still tried to have the same stakes and lessons as the book, but because of what they changed, it falls incredibly flat. I'm going to get into more specifics in just a little bit, but just as a brief overview, the stakes and the lesson are just completely wrong because of what they changed, and it hurts the movie as a whole. And I think it all kind of falls on the fact that they picked the wrong director for this. And that hurts me to say, because I like Steven Spielberg. I liked a lot of his movies, and I even said, oh, he's a great, mix for this. But it turns out he's really not, because he does not understand gamer culture. He doesn't understand fandoms. And I think that's because he is so much of pop culture, he doesn't know what it's like to be obsessed with pop culture. So it really falls short on him. Ernest Cline, the writer of the book, is very much a pop culture nerd. So this comes from, a level that he knows what he's talking about, where Steven Spielberg definitely feels like an outsider to this. And it falls really short because of that. And I think it really fell on Steven Spielberg why this kind of failed, or why I didn't like it, at least, or what all the problems were kind of fell on Steven Spielberg being the wrong director. But let's get into more details about that. So throw up the spoilers sign and jump to this time code here if you want to skip spoilers, because I'm doing some spoilers now. You ready? So let's start with just the surface changes they made that really bothered me. That I guess really didn't have too much bearing, but they really bothered me that they did it this way. The first key was not a race. It was, something he found on a fluke, and he used his knowledge to find it. It wasn't this big, action-y packed race. They used the wrong movie for the second key, and they used the movie wrong. In the book, you had to live out this entire movie line by line, and it created this whole new form of entertainment where you can live out movies. They didn't do that at all. It was Parzival that went to the labor camps, not Artemis that they changed in the book. And they just started adding all these erroneous extra action scenes that I don't think needed to be added. The whole ending was sort of right, but then they added a car chase to the ending. Okay? That was really weird. So that was just the surface things I didn't like, and there's probably more if I go over it again, but the main problem is how they characterize the Oasis, and why it doesn't work the way they did it in the movie. In the book, the Oasis is everything. It's where you go to school, it's where you go to work, it's where you have fun, it's where you go on vacation. The Oasis is the world. It is an escape from the world. In the movie, it's still just kind of a video game. It's just the thing people do on the side. It's really popular, but it's still just a video game. And when that becomes a problem is the overall stakes that this has then. Because Sorento trying to take it over in the book feels like he's trying to take over the world. He's going to destroy this world, this open thing. In the movie, it's just like, he's gonna ruin our video game. He's gonna add ads and DLC. He's gonna ruin it all, guys. Gosh. Yeah. Feels a little weak when all it's just going after is just, a video game. It's basically like if one company controlled the internet as a whole. In the book, that's how it's characterized in the book. And so it's like the internet as a whole, and this one other company, let's say Comcast, because they're awful and everyone hates them, is going to take over the internet. And they're going to limit access. They're going to change things. They're going to change prices. They're going to just change this open internet. Like, that's a bigger stake than just like, oh, they're going to add ads to our video games. See, where, it really falls short. So now the stakes are just not there. And then on top of it, my lesson that I took away from the book was that it's, the dangers of getting lost, escaping your reality and getting lost in your obsessions. And you can really see that by the dark, gray world that he presents us. When Parzival goes out into the world and it's empty and the streets are just gray, and it's just these hobos by these Oasis access points. And, hotels are just apartments now because no one needs to have a big apartment because you live in the Oasis, and hotels aren't needed because no one travels because you use Oasis. And he locks himself in his room and he's just living in this world, and it's this really dark part of the book that's like his low point, and it's done really well, but but in the movie they still show people interacting in life, and they still have board meetings, and it's still just a video game. So when that lesson comes along that like you need to live in the real world, you need to watch your obsessions, things like that. When that lesson tries to hit, instead of feeling like, yeah, this can get dark, oh man, now it feels more like, those damn kids need to get off them internets. The world happens when you're busy looking at your screen. I remember when people used to talk on the trains. Now they're just on their phones. Yeah, it feels like a grumpy old man telling them damn kids to get off them internets. That's how it comes across now, because it's just the young people who are in the Oasis, and they gotta learn to let go of this world. And although it has fairly the same lesson, it's how you come at it. Instead of Parzival, hitting this dark point of always being in the Oasis, not, locking himself in this tiny room, now it's just like, yeah, you gotta get off your TV sometimes. And I think that's, Steven Spielberg's problem right there. I don't think he understood where this book was coming from, because I think he's too old, to be honest. I don't want to be a dick, but I think he's too old and doesn't understand it. And so then it just becomes insulting rather than this like uplifting message of living your life. It's get off them damn internets. So yeah, it's just it's starting to feel like a theatrically long episode of the World of Warcraft episode of South Park, which I know everyone liked, but when you really boil it down, it's still like, them nerds playing them nerdy video games. Look at them nerds. Ooh, they're nerds. That's what this movie is. Yeah. So yeah, I don't like it. But that's enough of that. This video's starting to run long, so let's just go ahead and wrap it up. So I think the best way to talk about Ready Player One is to use a pop culture reference.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
Yeah, did not care for it. Again, it might be that I'm up my own ass and the book was better. I'm trying really hard to look at it objectively, but man, this really misses the point of the book, and I don't know how it could work as a movie on its own. I feel like it'd be very confusing. So this is not very good. There you go. There you have it. And so I got to give it a rating of watch it on TV. Meaning, if it comes on HBO, you're already paying for HBO. Sure, if it comes on Netflix, yeah, it's probably worth a check out. But don't spend money on this. This is really bad. Read the book instead. The book is very good, and I know I've heard a lot of backlash about the book, but it's just done way better than this movie. This is a really bad adaptation of the book. So there you go. What do you think of Ready Player One? If you did see it and you didn't read the book, please let me know what you thought, because I'm very curious. Hit that thumbs up if you like Voltron, because we all like Voltron. And share this video with people. Spread the word. It would really help me out. So I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.
Trying to talk to you in high school, couldn't even get a look cause you were too cool. But now we're older and we're playing by the new